My name is Dr. Ivan Pavlov. I'm 94 years old and I've practiced medicine longer than most people have been alive. I've seen wars, pandemics, starvation, and healing miracles. But nothing frustrates me more than seeing something so preventable destroy people's lives. Let me tell you a story. Her name was Maria. She was 67 when she walked, or rather, shuffled, into my office in St. Petersburg. Her legs were heavy, like blocks of ice. She told me, "Doctor, it's harder every day. I feel like I'm walking through mud." I watched her carefully. No limp, no visible injury. But every step looked like a burden. She thought it was arthritis, or maybe just getting old. Her family told her that's just how aging works. But I've learned to never assume, especially after 60. So I did what I always do. I asked about her sleep, her appetite, her memory, her energy. She told me she felt tired all the time, sometimes dizzy, occasionally a little confused, like forgetting names or where she left her glasses. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that raised red flags unless you've seen what I've seen. I ordered a test, not the usual one. I asked for methylmalonic acid and homocysteine. A few days later, the results came back, and I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I knew we had caught it in time. It was a B12 deficiency, deep, silent, creeping, and it had been draining her for years. I've seen this too many times, too many people suffering because no one thinks to check a simple vitamin. It doesn't make headlines. It's not glamorous, but it destroys lives in silence. You see, B12 is not like most vitamins. Your body doesn't make it. It must come from outside, from food or supplements. And after 60, your body often loses the ability to absorb it properly, even if you eat all the right things. You can be eating steak and eggs every morning and still be starving on the inside. Maria had no idea. Neither did her family. And neither do millions of people walking around right now dragging their feet, feeling foggy, thinking it's just age, when it's not. I want to be very clear, B12 deficiency is not rare, it's not exotic, it's common, especially after the age of 60, and the symptoms are sneaky. First it's fatigue, then tingling in the hands or feet, then memory slips, then balance issues, and slowly, like a candle burning out, your nervous system dims. Maria got lucky. We started injections, weekly at first, then monthly. After 6 weeks, she walked into my clinic without shuffling. Her eyes were brighter, her voice had energy, and she cried when she told me she had danced again for the first time in 10 years. And that is why I'm speaking to you today. If you're over 60 and your legs feel heavy, or your memory feels cloudy, or your energy feels like it's missing, don't wait. Don't let someone tell you it's just age, because sometimes it's something much easier to fix if you catch it early. In my next words, I'll tell you exactly why this happens and how many people are silently suffering with the same problem Maria had. But first, I want you to remember this. The legs don't lie. When they grow heavy, they are often whispering a warning, and you must listen before they stop moving at all. Let me explain what most people don't understand, what even many doctors overlook. Vitamin B12 is like a quiet engine under the hood of your body. It doesn't get much attention, but it keeps everything running, your nerves, your blood, your brain. Without it, the entire system starts to slow, misfire, and eventually break down. When you're young, absorbing B12 is easy. Your stomach makes a special acid and a protein called intrinsic factor. Together, they pull B12 out of your food, meat, fish, dairy, and send it through your gut into your blood. Simple, efficient. But after 60, that changes. The stomach gets slower, the acid gets weaker. The intrinsic factor may disappear altogether. It's like trying to pull water from a well when the rope breaks. The B12 is in the food, but your body just can't reach it anymore. This is why I call it a hidden epidemic, because the food looks fine, the diet seems healthy, but the cells are starving. And the worst part? The blood test most people get for B12, it lies. I've seen patients with normal B12 levels who couldn't feel their feet. I've seen people diagnosed with dementia who just needed injections. You see, the standard B12 test measures what's floating in your blood, not what's actually reaching your tissues. That's why I often order methylmalonic acid and homocysteine. Those markers tell me what's really going on at the cellular level, and the numbers don't lie. In my years of practice, especially in the West, I've noticed something else. Many seniors are put on medications that reduce stomach acid, proton pump inhibitors, antacids. Useful for heartburn, yes, but disastrous for B12, because without acid, there's no absorption. Now combine that with poor appetite, denture use, or a soft diet low in animal products, and suddenly even people who seem well-fed are dangerously low in B12. I call this the Great Masquerader, because B12 deficiency can look like so many other things: fatigue, depression, numb fingers, shakiness, forgetfulness, even incontinence. It mimics aging, anxiety, Parkinson's, even multiple sclerosis. One woman told me, "Doctor, I don't feel like myself anymore. I cry for no reason." Another said, "My hands feel like cotton. I drop my fork all the time." These are not coincidences. These are warnings. And the real tragedy is this: so many of them were told, "You're just getting older." No, not always. Sometimes it's something fixable, something silent, but serious. According to studies, up to 20% of people over 60 have a B12 deficiency. That's 1 in 5, and that's just the ones we catch. This is why I speak loudly, because the deficiency doesn't. It whispers, it tiptoes, and by the time it screams, the damage may already be done. But there is hope. Tremendous hope. If caught early, B12 deficiency can be reversed, and lives can be restored. You just need to know what to look for, and you need someone to take it seriously. So if you're over 60 and you feel like your body is slowing in strange ways, if you feel tingling, forgetful, or unsteady, please don't ignore it. Don't wait for it to get worse. You may not need a neurologist, you may just need B12. In the next part, I will show you what happens when this problem is left untreated, and why ignoring it can lead to devastating consequences. But for now, remember this: what hides behind age is often something more, and what you feel is not imaginary. It might be your body asking for help quietly before it's too late. I wish I could tell you that most people catch B12 deficiency early. I wish I could say that it's always treated in time, but the truth is many ignore it until it's too late. When B12 runs low, the body doesn't scream, it whispers, and if no one listens, the damage builds, slowly, silently. Let me tell you what I've seen. First, the legs. People say they feel strange, numb, heavy, clumsy. They trip more often. They walk slower. They start avoiding stairs. One woman told me she stopped going to her church group because she didn't trust her legs anymore. She thought she was just aging, but her nerves were starving. Then comes the mind. Not suddenly. It begins with little things: forgetting appointments, misplacing keys, struggling to find words. It looks like normal forgetfulness, until it isn't. I've had patients who were sent to neurologists, even psychiatrists. One man was told he had early Alzheimer's. His wife cried for weeks. But when we tested his B12 properly and started treatment, his fog lifted. He remembered their anniversary again. He smiled when he said her name. That was not dementia, that was a deficiency. I've seen people lose control of their bladder, their bowels. I've seen them fall in their homes and break hips. I've watched once independent men and women end up in wheelchairs, not from a stroke, not from cancer, but from neglecting this one vitamin. And here's something many people don't know. The damage can become permanent. B12 deficiency affects the spinal cord. It strips away something called the myelin sheath, a protective layer around your nerves. Without it, the nerves misfire or stop working entirely. The longer it goes untreated, the less chance you have of full recovery. There's a window, a time when healing is still possible. But miss it, and the consequences can last a lifetime. One of my patients, Nikolai, was 74. He was proud, strong, but he started to lose balance. Then his legs gave out. He couldn't drive anymore. He stopped going out. By the time his daughter brought him to me, it had been nearly 2 years. We did everything we could, but the damage was deep. He never walked alone again. And it broke his spirit. That's what many don't understand. This is not just about physical symptoms. It's about what those symptoms do to the soul. The isolation, the fear, the loss of independence. It eats away at people. But what hurts me most is that so much of it is preventable. I'm not trying to scare you, I'm trying to wake you up. Because if your body is telling you something, if your legs feel odd, if your memory feels slow, if your energy is vanishing, please don't brush it off and don't let anyone tell you it's just part of getting older. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's something you can change. In the next part, I will show you exactly how. The good news is this condition is often simple to treat, and with the right approach, many people feel better in just weeks. But today, remember this. When B12 is ignored, it doesn't disappear. It waits. It grows. And it takes more than your strength. It takes your life piece by piece. Listen early. Act early. That is how we prevent stories like Nikolai's from repeating. The beautiful thing about B12 deficiency is this. It's not a mystery. It's not some complex disease with no cure. It's one of the simplest problems I treat, and one of the most rewarding to reverse. If you catch it in time, B12 deficiency can be corrected fast, and the improvement people feel, sometimes it brings tears. I've seen patients go from walkers to dancing again in just a few months, from memory loss to clarity, from despair to joy, all because of one small compound, cobalamin. That's the scientific name for vitamin B12. Now let me tell you how it works. There are several ways to restore B12, and which one works best depends on your body. For some people, a simple oral supplement is enough, especially those with only mild deficiency. But for others, particularly those with absorption problems, pills won't work. You can swallow all you want, but it won't get into your bloodstream. That's why I often start with injections, intramuscular, direct, no detours through the gut. Usually once a week for the first month, then once a month to maintain. Most of my patients tolerate them very well, and they often feel a boost in energy after just 1 or 2 shots. There are also sublingual tablets, ones that dissolve under the tongue. These bypass the digestive system too, and can be effective for moderate cases. Some people ask, "Doctor, how much should I take?" My answer is always talk to your physician, but I'll tell you this, B12 is water soluble. That means your body flushes out the excess, so it's very safe, even in high doses. I've used 1,000 micrograms per day in some patients with no problems. And for those who worry about needles, let me say this. The pain of nerve damage is far worse than the prick of a B12 shot. I've had patients beg for injections after they realized how much better they felt. Let's talk food for a moment. Yes, B12 is found in many animal products: beef, liver, eggs, dairy, fish. Liver, in fact, is one of the richest sources. But here's the truth. After 60, your stomach often can't extract the B12 from food properly. The acid is too low. The intrinsic factor is missing, so even if you eat well, you might still be deficient. That's why I never rely on diet alone. It's important, but not enough for most seniors. Think of food as maintenance, not repair. What about vegetarians and vegans? They're at even higher risk. B12 comes almost exclusively from animal sources, and I've seen many healthy-looking plant-based patients who were severely deficient and didn't even know it. If that's your lifestyle, please be proactive. Get tested. Supplement early. Now here's a critical point. Don't just ask for a standard B12 blood test. As I said before, it can be misleading. Ask your doctor to check methylmalonic acid, MMA, or homocysteine. These are better indicators of what your cells are actually experiencing. You don't have to guess. You don't have to suffer. The tools are available. The treatments are accessible. Most are inexpensive, and they work. But none of it matters if no one looks, if no one asks the question, if no one takes your symptoms seriously. That's why I keep speaking even at 94, because too many people give up on life thinking it's just old age, when in fact their body is still trying to fight. It just needs a little help. And in the final part of this message, I want to leave you with something personal, something I've learned, not only as a doctor but as a man who has seen too many stories that could have ended differently. After 70 years in medicine, I've learned that healing is not just about science, it's about listening. It's about paying attention to the small things before they become big things. And most of all, it's about not giving up on people, especially when they begin to give up on themselves. I've seen many diseases in my life. Some we can't prevent, some we can't cure. But vitamin B12 deficiency? That one we can catch, we can treat, and we can reverse if we act. I still remember the first time I treated it back in the 1960s. The man could barely stand. His hands trembled, his words were slow. Everyone thought it was the beginning of the end. But after just a few weeks of treatment, his legs steadied. His mind cleared. His wife told me, "You brought him back to me." That stayed with me. Because it wasn't a miracle drug, it wasn't surgery, it was a vitamin. A simple nutrient the body had quietly run out of. That was all. Since then, I've seen it hundreds of times. People written off by their families, by other doctors, by themselves. And yet, with proper diagnosis and treatment, they return to their gardens, to their grandchildren, to their faith, to their joy. And that is why I am speaking to you now. If you are over 60, or if someone you love is, please don't wait until it's too late. Don't explain away numb legs, brain fog, or fatigue. Don't assume your age is the enemy. Sometimes the enemy is just neglect. You don't need to live in fear. You just need to live with awareness. Ask questions. Demand answers. If your doctor doesn't take your symptoms seriously, find one who will. If you've already been told it's nothing, check again, because your life is worth a second opinion. And if you feel fine right now, good. That's the perfect time to check, because prevention is always more powerful than repair. I'm not here to sell you anything. I have no book, no clinic, no supplement brand, just a voice. And I use it because I've lived long enough to know that wisdom means nothing unless it's shared. People often ask me, "Dr. Pavlov, what's the secret to a long life?" I always smile and say, keep your feet strong, your blood flowing, and your brain awake. Everything else follows. B12 helps with all three. I believe in faith, in family, in service. But I also believe in facts. And the fact is, millions are suffering unnecessarily. Not from some rare disease, but from something that can be fixed with a tablet, an injection, or a little more awareness. If you feel tired, if your legs feel like strangers, if you're forgetting things more than usual, listen to your body. Don't let pride or fear stop you from acting. You have more life left than you realize, more energy, more memories to make. But you must protect the machine that carries your soul. I'm just one old doctor from Russia, but I've seen what happens when people ignore the signs. And I've seen what happens when they finally listen. And so, I leave you with this. Get your B12 checked. Not next year, not someday, now. You may not feel the deficiency creeping in, but one day you'll feel what healing feels like, and you'll realize how far you had drifted without knowing. This is Dr. Ivan Pavlov, and if I've helped even one person wake up and take action, then all these words were worth it. Thank you, and may your steps remain steady for many years to come.